Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Article Club.
Welcome.
This is a show where we pick an article and we talk about it.
We talk about it.
And I'm excited to talk about
I'm just echoing you this whole time.
Oh, tickle. What is it, Allison?
This is a nice one.
Ooh.
So this is about midlife crises.
LOL.
Yeah, LOL. This is, what was the line from the one of
the end of seriousness.
Yeah, but what was the line? Like the world is ending, lol.
Yeah.
So this one is called The Midlife Crisis is Coming for Millennials, LOL. The subtitle, How Millennials Are Freaking Out About Being Halfway to Death When Everyone's Broke and Already in Therapy. So this one was written by Abad-Santos, who is quite a legend. He created the culture section at Vox, which I think is pretty impressive.
Ooh.
And of course, I had to say that before this, he worked at one of our faves, The Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
But the midlife crisis is basically having a midlife crisis, maybe is how I would think about it. Or it's having an overhaul where basically this whole article is talking about how millennials can't have like the affair and sports car midlife crisis because we can't afford the sports car. And then we're all in therapy. So like no one's being a huge dick and having an affair.
Some people might be.
Yeah, they might be. But
the stereotype
of that doesn't totally ring true. And just basically how the midlife crisis is looking different for millennials than it has for previous generations. Although even for previous generations, some of that stereotype wasn't true, which I've done some deeper dives on. And I feel like, just as a quick aside, I feel like most of my friends who have had midlife crises have had them in their 30s. So it's more like people are always talking about the quarter life crisis or the what would you call the third life? The tri life crisis?
I don't know.
So there's association with this
idea. But that's interesting. Maybe for millennials, there isn't this like one midlife point. Yeah. Also, we've had all of these crazy, and we'll talk about COVID. I feel like that just accelerated our crises.
Totally. So yeah, there's this concept of, I think for previous generations, midlife crises happen typically between your 40s and 60s, interestingly, like later than you would have thought. And it was this concept of sort of when you were already settled down, like, you were married, you had the kids, you had the house, and you were sort of looking to like shake it all up. And that's when you had an affair or like quit your job or bought a sports car because you're feeling like old and settled. And I actually feel like millennials, my takeaway from this is that millennials have the opposite, which is like we can't afford to buy a house. People are still living with their parents. They are having kids later. And so what's prompting the midlife crisis is actually not the same things. Like you actually are the lack of settling that makes people have these midlife crises where they're like, what have I'm halfway through my life and I haven't done all these things that I thought I would do.
Exactly. It's more of, he talks about a progress report.
Totally.
Like, here are all the things I wanted to have accomplished. Have I accomplished them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Previous generations were reacting to too much stability.
Right.
When we're like, we don't have any stability.
Right. And there are people who are having these quote unquote midlife, quarter life crises who are trying to get to that stability, right?
Totally.
There's this whole trend around like the trad wife, like going like this, like, you know what? Screw this career situation.
Totally.
Like, I'm going back to this like old school way of doing things that brings with it, like, that in and of itself is like revolutionary.
Yeah.
Because like, shouldn't you have a career also? What do you mean you just want to be a mom?
Totally.
Like, it's all these interesting changes.
Yeah. This line really stuck with me, which is that it's more of a reaction without an obvious solution. So the idea that we know how we don't want to age, but we don't actually know how we do want to age because we just haven't accomplish all the things that we like thought we would have done by this point.
And it also feels like the crises with millennials are more fluid. Like, we're having them all the time.
Right.
Whether it was spurred by the pandemic or by the financial crisis or, whatever else is happening in the world. He talks about we have more control. We didn't have those same expectations that, you get a job that you hold for 30 years, you get married and you have 2.5 kids. Therefore, we don't have like one breaking point.
Right.
We have all of these we're trying to like navigate through all these nooks and crannies.
And as millennials, we have been a generation, I'm sure all the generations, I was trying to think about this, like, do we think we're special and unique? And in reality, like previous generations have had these like major inflection point moments, but we had all of these moments where I think things were a bit upended and you could take stock of your life and then be like, what am I doing? So the first one was like, we all entered the workforce right after the Great Recession in like 2007, 2008. Then the second one was, what was the second one? COVID. Then there was COVID, but I feel like there was another one. Nothing else? Just those two things?
Well,
that's not much. What are we?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, there were all these things that sort of like shook us up.
But I'm like, well, other people dealt with war.
And
Who are we?
other generations.
Oh, 9/11 was, he didn't mention 9/11.
9/11, that was formative.
I mean, not that we were having a midlife crisis
but it shaped things.
11 or whatever.
Yeah, and okay, lots of generations have been through different things, but we are the first generation that is just as likely to do worse financially, worse than our parents as we are to do better. Like whereas previously you're like there was just this thing. I don't know about like in Depression era if that was true necessarily, but there's been this sort of like steady. I will be able to at least have the lifestyle that I grew up with, if not
better,
achieve more.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
I was dying at the data that he quotes that 81% of millennials polled said they couldn't afford to have a midlife crisis.
Yeah, that sounds expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't afford a sports car.
Is it on
or a
Prime?
Divorce.
Because maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And one thing he does not talk about is how we are also like the elder millennials for sure are a part of this sandwich generation.
Is that me?
No, I don't think we're elder millennials. Okay. We're like squarely millennial. Okay. But elderly millennials would be people who are like 42, 43 right now.
Right.
And they and we ultimately too are in the throes of this sandwich generation where since we had kids later, we've got young kids, and then our parents are living longer, and so we're dealing with like dying parents, and so we're sort of like it makes it really hard to just fuck off and have a midlife crisis.
Totally. There was something interesting that he says that actually does connect us to the traditional, like the old school midlife crisis, and that is tying our identity to work. So for all the sort of like fluidity of our options and choices, we millennials are very into like how our career defines who we are. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the midlife crisis changes come with our career. Ooh, I'm going to move into this new thing. I'm going to go back to school so I can unlock that. I'm going to quit my job so that I can spend more time on these things that fulfill me. It's like very career oriented.
Yeah, I was thinking about a friend recently was talking about what she wanted to do for her third act. Like she already was thinking about like when I retire, ideally in my like late 40s, early 50s, I'll have a third act as a preschool teacher. And it's like, okay, like like you're sort of, or is that you delaying your midlife crisis, or is that just like intentional planning? Don't know.
Interesting. I also feel like we've had all these periods of layoffs. Like there's been sort of like your career has shifted also without you planning it out, and therefore you're sort of like forced to think about what else you want to do.
Yes. Yeah, like you've been whatever. If you were a journalist now, like your career's totally changed, or I think AI will like really accelerate the midlife crisis.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like your job doesn't exist anymore. Exactly. What are you going to do now?
Exactly. And I thought this reframing, I think a lot of previous midlife crises, like the sports car divorce, was like escapism, again, from the stability, whereas like many of the ones that I think about are more like I'm actually looking for an opportunity. And maybe that's how the sports car divorcees like framed their midlife crises, but it's like he talks about sort of the three most common midlife crisis options are a fitness journey, a new career, or like a personal awakening, like which might involve
and
ayahuasca
things
or
you can control.
Tattoos.
Not that you can control your ayahuasca trip, but like we're craving these things that we can control. I can go get this tattoo. I can become a athlete. I can. Whatever.
Yeah, I can do this crazy races. He was talking about with fitness, like all of the most popular age range for all of these like new fitness trends is between the ages of like 35 and 39, who are like running in these endurance challenges, doing all these things to like push themselves to, I think, probably give their lives meaning. I mean, like, is that what the end game of a midlife crisis is? To find meaning? To find
meaning and to sort of, I think, regain a sense of who you are.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's like, there's like two sects here, and like one sect is I did all these things, I didn't go the traditional route, like wait, should I be more settled?
Yeah.
And then the other sect is, I did all these things, and then I had the kids, and now I'm like, now I want to do something that's not career, not
a little bit more
for me,
risky,
or I'm tired, or coming back to helping me understand who I am.
Yeah.
And it is true that this is about like, we have one short life to live, and there are these different moments where it does feel like a privilege to be able to think about, oh, how do I want to spend that?
Yep.
When you're just trying to grind it out to survive, to get up in there.
Totally.
That's a pretty underlying thing here. And he sort of like, not to cut to the chase or the thesis, but he sort of talks about how instead of the sports car, instead of that escape or that shiny thing or that thing that makes you feel like new. The sports car is the making the most of your life. And how you do that. Some of that's taking stock, some of that's changing. You're making different choices, but it's feeling like you're making the most. And maybe for some people that's still buying a car.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we were indoctrinated to the capitalist, like told to work hard and like find value in your career. And I went to business school and I remember everyone was so turbo afterwards. Like, I want to get this job. I want to be the CEO.
Turbo. I love that.
So turbo. And now I feel like all my friends are like leaning a little wary to work. Yeah. We were so indoctrinated to the lean in lifestyle. Yeah. Like I remember when I was living in DC, that book came out. I remember like, it was also I feel like the same era as 50 Shades of Grey. And I was like, I'll read that one on my Kindle because I don't want people to know I'm reading 50 Shades of Grey. But I was like, lean in, give me the hard copy, and I'm pounding that book in the metro because
is leaning out our midlife crisis?
It might be. I love the line that he says, it's only natural that after all of these years of working hard and not having much to show for it, the question would arise, where did all the years of labor go? Was it worth it? Did it make any of us happy?
It's almost like there was this illusion in the beginning of like, if I keep doing this, it could unlock my wildest dreams. And after a long time of doing it, you get more of a realistic sense of like, this is going to lead me probably there.
Yeah.
Why don't I try something different?
It's like the FIRE lifestyle who thought they, would make all this money in their 20s and then retire and then that's when your life starts. Like that's like its own that's like a pre-baked midlife crisis for millennials.
Yeah. There's also this we touched on it a little bit, and there's somebody he talks to in the piece named Sam, pseudonym, who basically is like it's pseudonym. It's like a wrestling between feeling like you're able to do what you want to do with your life and also craving feeling settled.
Yeah. And why do we crave this settling feeling?
That tension so much. I remember in the pandemic, there were some people who were like, I'm going to pick up and get a motorhome and like drive around the country or whatever. And, and I happened to be like pregnant and hunkered down and then like had a baby and COVID and felt very like, okay, this is what I've always wanted to be like settled. But I'm at the same time, I'm this sort of like adventurous spirit. I feel like that is a very millennial thing. We want to do it all, but we want to like have a core, like a base.
Totally. I was just having this discussion with one of my guy friends who has an apartment in New York, but they are spending the summer in like the Hudson Valley, and they just bid on a house because he was like, I don't know. And I was texting him, but I was like, oh my God, this is like big news. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. I guess like we're 36. Like, I guess I should be a homeowner at this point, right? And I was like,
right. That's exactly.
I'm having the same mental tug of war in my own brain.
It's exactly that. These are the milestones I figured I would hit, right?
Yeah.
I felt the same way, honestly, about having kids. Like I was never like, oh, I need to be a mom. Like, let's go, whatever. It's like I always assumed I would. Do it now. Yeah. And like, I guess that's, we're ticking that off the box. And now that I know I'm done having kids, I do have this renewed sense of like, okay, like now, like that's check. Yeah. As if it's a check. Like I have literally a 1-year-old. I have a long way to go here. But I am like, okay, now I can pick my head up,
Right. And then same thing with like feeling settled. It's like, oh, okay, let's say I buy a house and then I'm like, yeah, I'm settled. I've bought this house. And it's like, well, you're just
water heater break.
Exactly. Money pit.
Baby.
And then it's like, what is this? What am I paying? Is this literally just paying thousands of dollars for this quote unquote feeling that maybe might elude me?
Yes. And I do tell myself, my 4-year-old is like, you're never going to sell our house, are you? And I'm like, okay, this is why, like it'll be like, that's why like we had to rewire the whatever.
But even what's the benefit of that?
HVAC and the whatever.
Like that she...
Well, there is this cute 4-year-old being like, I want to live here forever.
Yeah.
Like, and I want to have, if you're not having more babies, I'm going to have more babies, Mom, and you're going to help me in this house. I'm like, okay.
I remember my aunt and uncle had the same house for like most of my cousin's like life, probably since as young as she could remember until maybe like 5 years ago. And when they sold her house, I remember she was absolutely gutted, like sobbing, all this nostalgia overplaced. And my parents have lived in the same house for most of my like childhood too. But then they sold it and moved like down the street. So granted, not that far, but I was like, yeah, whatever.
It's funny you say that because I moved around a ton when I was a kid, all over the place.
Yeah.
Because my dad worked for Pepsi in the 90s, like big soda.
Yeah. Speaking of the $16 billion GLP-1 advertising dollars.
My husband lived in the same house his whole life, like didn't get on a plane until college, and is extremely nostalgic about his house. And I feel like I've caught that, like a disease from him with like our space,
Yeah.
And I just feel like I still want to go and do all the things, but there is this something, maybe it's like, oh, I didn't really have that feeling necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, we grew up mostly in one spot. But yeah, when my parents were like, we're selling the house, see ya. Like, I never saw it again. They like got a giant dumpster and threw everything away. I have a little box with like a couple of like, relics of my childhood. It's just
yeah. It's all seeking this control.
Right.
I feel like part of the midlife crisis obsession, in addition to the fitness, is the obsession with longevity. It's like, maybe are we delaying the midlife crisis because we're just going to live longer? So we buy 10 more years before our real midlife crisis comes.
I do feel like there's this underlying, millennials. We're doing everything a little bit later because we're going to be
we're just adding 10 years on at the front end because we're going to add 10 on the back.
That's interesting.
Like cold plunges and keto and the manosphere.
Speaking of. He touches very, very briefly on menopause.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting like we are hurdling toward another like this other milestone that affects women in this like everybody has a different experience, and men just like do not have that as a transition period at all.
Yeah.
And he talks about the tropes of like a woman opening the fridge because she's having hot flashes. And us, like some of those tropes or stereotypes or whatever, helping us like project what it's going to be and almost like look at it and laugh at it. So to like help prepare us for it, which I found very interesting.
Although when they talk about anxiety and like worrying about things in advance, has actually no impact on how you feel in the moment.
It's almost like, and it the caricature of it, I don't know that necessarily helps me.
Yeah. Okay, so I went really deep on where this term even came from, midlife crisis. Midlife crisis.
Yeah, where? So, tell us.
It was coined by this guy, Elliot Jacques. And he was actually like a social scientist business researcher, but he introduced the phrase in midlife crisis in 1965 in a paper on the working patterns of creative geniuses. He was like looking at the careers of composers and artists, and he found abrupt changes in their style or declines in productivity around the age of 35, which is fascinating. But it was sort of like a one-off thing. And then this other woman, Suzanne Schmidt, published this piece about the feminist origins of the midlife crisis. So she was talking about, even though Eliot coined it in the 50s, it became like more in the ether in 2 decades later, because this woman, Gail Sheehy, had written this book where she was talking about middle age for women being this release from motherhood and domesticity. So sort of like when you're because
middle age now is when you are in the thick of the shit show.
Exactly.
Damn.
I know.
And they should be like off at least in the neighborhood in middle school or whatever.
Yeah. So first of all, women.
But I'm glad we had our 20s.
Yeah.
which I guess they did not have.
Yeah, they did not have. So maybe we got some of the yayas out then.
Yeah, you just don't. Life doesn't work that way, right? It's like you don't feel, oh, good, I'm ready, I'm full.
Yeah.
Right? It's just this like constant ongoing need to feel fulfilled.
Yeah. So I looked at how common midlife crises are,
but it's interesting that it's like now I don't have to parent small children, and I'm like heading toward menopause is basically her.
Why she coined it. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm done with like having to make house and parent.
What should I do?
Yeah, I'll have hot
Bingo.
Flashes. But it studies show, like when you ask people, actually, have you had a midlife crisis? Only 10 to 26% of the population experience a true midlife crisis.
Yeah, I feel like in the last 5 years with the pandemic, we've all talked about like we're all having these crazy, and we don't call it midlife crisis. Like.
Well, they said the most common it's always like it doesn't just happen. It doesn't just suddenly like overcome you. It's almost always in those like 10 to 26% precipitated by an upsetting life event. So like losing a parent or losing a job are like the most common ones. But like COVID could very easily be that sort of like
totally
let's upset the apple cart.
And he quotes some sort of researcher who talks about how crisis is actually it can actually be a helpful thing. Like it doesn't have to be crisis. Doesn't have to be
reset
bad.
Your priorities.
Like it's actually good to think about your life as this like, these ups and down arcs that you have some power over and a moment to reflect and change. And I feel like millennials, like we've always been pretty aware that we can change our minds. Even despite all sort of like the disruptions, or maybe because of those disruptions that we've had. We see people making different choices.
Right, we're in therapy. So, and I think that because we're doing reflection, also more. I mean, I think because we're in therapy, and because, although I still don't think we're exceptionally good at this, like being super intentional with how we live our lives. But like, if you were doing that, if you were like, at once a year, once a quarter, once every, if you're doing an offsite with your partner, then you could say like, are we leading the life we want to leave? How do we want to change that? So it's not just this like, oh, I've been on this fucking road for months for years. And then suddenly I'm like, wait, how did I get to Poughkeepsie?
Totally. And it does feel like some people need like it broken out of their control. And it seems like that can be a trigger. And then some people can design their life so that then maybe they have a little bit more space to figure out what's lighting them up.
Yeah.
And I definitely relate to that. Like, I wouldn't call it a midlife crisis. I've been labeling it as my creative renaissance. And Article Club is part of that. You know, I want to learn something new, spend time with my friend, and talk about things. And people from all walks of life in our community chime in these ways that are so fun and fulfilling.
Yeah.
And why not, I guess I always, and when you're like on the hamster wheel, it's like all focused on the career or whatever, or like on the kids or da-da-da-da. And then a bit of the like softening of that. And I think, again, coming back to privilege, that also comes with like you've established yourself in your career.
Yeah.
You feel like you've met some goals as a family. Like, you and I tried to start a podcast in 2017.
Yeah, totally.
We recorded a few episodes and like then I started a company and then you had this crazy growth trajectory.
Totally.
It just like there was no way that we were and I don't think we would have held it with the same sort of reverence. Like it wouldn't have been the same kind of respite.
No. It would have been I don't know. I think that we also would have had a tighter grip on it.
Also, but baby, if we had done it in 2017, we'd be where would we be now? But we can't think that way because that's not what this is about.
Our SponCon would be out of control.
SponCon, KT's kombucha.
Yeah, exactly. I know that was going to be our original sponsor. Until we learned it was a house of cards. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Any other?
A couple things. One, just the word wistful.
Oh. Just got you good?
I just...
I don't even know. I'm like, when did he use the word wistful?
He's talking to someone else. Was it Sam? It must have been Sam again. It was like Sam again.
Yeah.
And she was talking about, the milestones she feels like she didn't necessarily... She's very happy with her life because, she did get a divorce during the pandemic, but she's in a healthier place.
Pseudonym.
She's in a less toxic career. She's got tattoos. She is thriving for sure. But she's a bit wistful of like the things, she thought maybe she'd have kids, maybe she'd have a family, maybe, the ghost ships. And I feel like that wistfulness is a very healthy
because she says like bummed isn't the right word because bummed sounds sort of like, ugh, I'm bummed. Yeah. But like wistful is like, what could have been? Right. But I'm okay with it not being.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it not being. Exactly right. And I just think that's a nice way to sort of like reflect on the things that didn't happen necessarily.
Yeah. Okay. Onward ho.
Onward ho. Okay.
What's popping off?
This is our segment called What's Blowing Up the Group Chat. And this is where we talk about what's blowing up the group chat.
Yeah. Not to be redundant.
Should I go first?
No.
I kind of want to go first because I feel like we're going to have the same one this time.
By all means.
I just have this feeling.
I have a backup if
oh, you have a backup?
Yeah, so you go first.
This was a real-time shift because it was blowing up the group thread on the way to the studio.
Oh, wow. Today. Hot takes. Then no, you got this one.
Okay. What was blowing up the group chat was a manual Be Real. And if you right, for those of you who do not know, there was this app, Be Real, still is an app, Be Real, that
actually,
people
I just
use.
was reading an article recently that Be Real is plotting their comeback.
Good for them. I support.
Yeah.
And it was basically you would get this notification to take a selfie of wherever you are or a picture of wherever you were at a given time and sort of like report back to your group of friends.
And you had to do it at a certain time. So it couldn't be curated.
You're like on the toilet, you're doing it. It's just like a snapshot of your life in a world of filters, right? Mm-hmm. It's like unfiltered your life. And a friend of ours just did a roll call this morning and just said, "Be real right now, now." And everybody,
what was the actual
let me
prompt?
tell you how fucking fabulous, my friends. Everybody was like looking like just great. Like
she said, "Good morning, everyone. It's time to be real." And then she said, "Remember, be real."
It was just great. I hope somebody calls for Be Real once a day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too much. Maybe twice a week.
Yeah.
But
not every day because then it's Lester.
You keep up through text, the group chat, the group thread or whatever, but there's just something about like, take me to your space for a second.
Yeah.
That I love.
Feel connected.
Yeah.
That's magical. Okay. Mine is, I actually got two if you'll allow.
Oh, I will indulge.
Okay. So the first one I'll be quick on, which is what's blowing up the group chat, paracord. Are you familiar with paracord?
Zero.
Okay, like it's basically those colorful like rope materials.
Okay.
But now it's being used in fashion all the time, but like in lots of places. So like Dorsey, the like lab grown diamonds has a paracord necklace, a paracord anklet. They're like fun.
Wait, explain to me, is it a fiber or is it?
It looks like a sailing rope, but like very thin. Sometimes it's like red with like little like dots on it.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Google it. We'll show you after.
Okay.
Oops, sorry. We'll show you after. But paracord, there's like paracord
Ooh.
shoes. Miu Miu had some paracord shoes that one of our friends got a dupe for from Veronica Beard. Paracord,
dupe.
Yeah, exactly. But there is actually a really good Amazon dupe of the paracord. Because then I said, "Are those from Amazon?" And she's like, "No, they're Veronica Beard." And I was like, "Hate to be the bearer of bad news. I want the Amazon ones, but they don't come in my size." Paracord everywhere. It's very cool. Hit for summer.
Okay.
Fashion
Look
fabric.
it up.
Okay. Second one is nudity among others that are not of other opposite sexes that are not your partner.
Say more.
So I went backpacking.
Okay.
And this past weekend with a mixed gender group. And, like you're backpacking, you're like in the we're in nature. There was not another single person around. And so the question is like, are you still modest? Like, yeah, right. I know. It's a fascinating question. Like, do I
like
just
when you're going to the bathroom or when you're changing?
When you're changing, like, you're getting out of your comfy, sleepy clothes.
I mean, it all depends on. I mean, it depends on the. Actually, no. For me, it doesn't depend.
You wouldn't
even
show your
my
boobs in front of another
close
man.
Friend. No.
Or what about would you
no.
turn around and just like have your butt shown to the opposite
I
sex?
am a professional changer while I'm still like clothed.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I could like
but
change
the point is more like, do
a
you
full
have to
outfit
be?
with like another outfit over it. I don't know. It seems like a deeply personal preference.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There was no discussion. It just happened, and I was like, "This is fascinating," because I'm a bit of an
it just
exhibitionist.
happened. How so? Like the men were like,
no, the women.
we're just like we're changing.
Yeah, we're like boobs out, whatever. Let it ride.
Wow, good for them.
And I love being naked. I like. There's like part of me when I'm a bit of an exhibitionist. Like my window looks, it's like one story up, but looks out of the street. I'm always naked in front of it.
Good luck to them. Yeah,
I'm like,
whatever.
yeah, this is a little for me, a little for you, and I.
Isn't there like a clinic, like a health clinic across the street, and there's like a fancy restaurant?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm always like,
great.
If you should be so lucky,
Consider yourself healed.
Yeah, exactly. Look at this fun piece of art.
full.
But I also like among company, especially like company that has partners. Like I just sort of feel like, like I honestly don't really care if you see it, and it's not like you've never seen this before. But I would turn around and show you my butt. I probably won't. I'll show you my. I'll show you my butt, but not my front butt.
Ouchie front bottom.
And I feel like boobs. I would just turn around. Like I'd show you my back naked, but not my.
Do you
front
think
naked.
Mario would care?
That's a good question. I should ask him.
Like Charlie would not like
it.
That would be like.
He'd
let
be like,
alone
he'd
my
be like,
choices.
You are prostituting
which
your
it
body.
doesn't matter enough for me to be naked
totally,
for that for whatever. As if that's the reason. No, I still know. Like
Okay.
I'm like I don't know. I grew up in a very prudy covered up scenario. But it's so funny with kids. Like you're changing, kids are in or whatever, and they're like pointing at different parts of your body and like asking. And that is I think is like so cute and fun and whatever. I'm like that's when you get older, this or whatever. No, I don't. Yeah. And with women, don't care at all. And that's the collegiate sports in me, right? The locker room, whatever.
Right. Other women, you don't care.
No.
Yeah.
Never. In fact, I feel like I'm always putting other women at ease when they feel like they need to like cover up or whatever. I'm like, girlfriend, or like, sorry, I'm whatever. I'm like, I don't care at all. But I don't know. Partnered men, no, not for me.
Great. Good
Interesting
to know.
questions.
I know. Great group chats.
Nudies.
Yeah.
Wait, what did the group chat say?
This is our group chat right now.
Okay. So it happened.
It happened, and I've just been thinking about it. And I'm like, oh my God, it's fascinating.
That's fine. You can use this space.
Use your space. Safe space. Mm-hmm. Safe space.
Okay, well, that's all we have.
Yeah.
For Article Club this week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.